Now that we've installed iTree Streets onto our PDA and configured our new project, we're going to be taking a closer look on how to use the PDA in the field. Right now we're doing an inventory of the University of Massachusetts campus in Amherst. Here we are at the courtyard where there's some trees that we're going to take a closer look at. As we take a look at this tree, we notice that it's somewhat stressed. We notice a thinning canopy and a blackened stem. As we get closer, we notice that it's a tulip tree, which can be noticed by this leaf shape. We also notice that some of the leaves are covered with sooty mold, which is a blackened substance that could affect the photosynthesis of the plant. The sooty mold is produced by insects with piercing, sucking mouths, either aphids or scales. So let's take a closer look and see if we can see any. As we look up the stem, we notice that there's this insect here with a waxy cuticle, and that resembles a scale insect, which is common in tulip trees. So now that we've gotten a closer look of our tree, let's enter it into the PDA menu, and we're going to click Add a New Tree. So the tree ID is number 4. It's in zone 1, and then we're going to click street segment. This is going to be street segment number 1. We don't have to enter the street name and street number because we've opted not to in our default settings, as we are here on a campus and not a typical street. So the next setting that we have to add is the location site. And we're in a courtyard in front of the building. So we're going to say it's in front of the building, and the land use is park-like because we're in the courtyard. And the tree is planted in a planting strip. And right now we're not doing an inventory for a city, we're doing it for a university. So we're going to say that it's city managed, even though it's not a city, because the university owns the tree and manages the tree. Down at the bottom you can see that we have other tabs to fulfill. We just completed the location tab. The next tab would be GPS, but right now we're going to skip that and move on to the species. So under species we're going to select our tree, and we know that our tree is a tulip tree. So we're going to click the drop down menu, and then we're going to locate the tulip tree. And here we are, tulip tree. The next field it's asking us to enter is the DBH, the diameter at breast height. So we know that our tree, the DBH, is around 4 inches. So we're going to click the 3 to 6 inch range and enter that. Next, it's asking us to enter the condition of the wood. And the condition of the wood and stem was in fair condition. We know that there was an insect that had been affecting our tree, but it was more affecting the twigs and the leaves. So we're going to say that our leaves were in poor condition, as they were yellowed and covered in sooty mold. So that's it for our species. Next we're going to enter management. Under management, it's asking us to recommend maintenance. So we're going to click this drop down menu and take a look at the options. We know that our tree was a small tree, so we have 2 options. We have a small tree routine and a small tree immediate. Small tree immediate would be for an emergency situation, which could be a broken limb, large deadwood, or an invasive species that needed to be dealt with immediately. The pest on our tree wasn't really invasive and wasn't spreading very quickly, so we're just going to say that it's a routine maintenance needed. The next option, or the next field, is priority task. So we're going to click that drop down menu and take a look at the options. We know that it didn't need to be staked or trained or pruned or removed, So we see at the bottom that there is a treat pest disease. So we're going to click that. But there wasn't any sidewalk damage, so we're not going to enter anything into that field. The next field is wire conflict. So we're going to click that and say that there weren't any lines. There may be other fields required for your inventory, but right here we have it set on the defaults, and this is all it's asking us. So that is the end of the maintenance tab. Next we're going to move on to pest detection, which is the main focus of I-PED. The first question it asks is the tree in stress? And our tree was in stress. We click on the tree stress window and it brings us up to another window. And it asks us for dieback. Was there any dieback? We noticed that there was some dieback on scattered twigs, probably around 10 to 30%. So we're going to click 10 to 30%. Next, it asks us if there's epicormic sprouts. And we didn't notice any of that, so we're going to leave that as none. And we also noticed that the foliage wasn't wilted. So we're going to click none on that as well. We didn't notice any environmental stresses, such as lightning, hail, sun scald, or broken branches. So we're going to leave that as none as well. And human stress, which is common on a college campus, we're going to click on that. And we noticed that it could have been planted wrong. It looks like it was a little deep, so we're going to click poor or restricted planting. And that leaves it, that's done for that window, so we're going to click OK. So the next field it's asking us was the foliage and twigs stressed. We're going to say yes. We noticed that there wasn't any chewed foliage, so we're going to leave that as none. We did notice that there was discolored foliage, so we're going to click that drop-down menu, and then we're going to try to find something that would say that the leaves were yellowed. So as we look down, we can find complete yellowing of leaves. So we'll click on that. We didn't notice any abnormal foliage, which would include galls or curled tips, but we did notice some sooty mold on the foliage. So we're going to click sticky black coating. And we notice some insect signs, such as the insect scale, so we'll look at this menu and we'll click scales. For the percent of foliage affected, we're going to say that the whole crown was affected. There were some leaves still on the crown, but each branch was affected. So we're going to say that this was affecting the whole crown. And then we'll click OK. Which brings us back to the I-PED menu. Now it's asking us to analyze the branches and bulb. And we notice that the branches and bulb remain pretty healthy. So we're going to leave that as no stress indicated. The next field it's asking us is to identify our primary pests. And as we click the drop-down menu, it gives us options of the Latin names of certain insects that affect urban trees. And as we are not really aware of the taxonomy of the urban trees, or the urban pests affecting our trees, we're just going to click unknown. And hopefully when we bring our computer back, or PDA back to the computer, it will allow us to further research that. So for right now, we're going to click Save, and that will finish our inventory for this tree. So thanks for joining on this, and hopefully this helped.